Hi everybody. I wanted to make a quick video based on a debate that I've been having actually for a while now on the differences in combat effectiveness between men and women serving in the military. Now, you may or may not know that a recent study was done by the USMC, that's the United States Marine Corps, who, if I may say so, have quite the history of combat excellence, if you will. This is a branch of the United States military that prides itself on universal combat effectiveness, um, having coined such phrases as every Marine is a rifleman due to their testing and their qualifications. And the part of this study, the Marine Corps' Force Integration, Marine Corps Force Integration Plan summary, and the part of it that speaks to lethality, because combat tends to be a very lethally focused discipline, if you will. It's somewhat the central focus of combat is to kill or be killed. And this is the, quote, summary of research findings under the subheading of combat effectiveness. Now, I will be reading this to the letter, possibly some stuttering here. However, I will read this to the letter and also provide a link to the study itself, or to the study's summary, in the low bar. Here we go. Summary of research findings. Combat effectiveness. Overall, all male squads, teams, and crews demonstrated higher performance levels on 69% of tasks evaluated. That's 93 of 134, as compared to gender-integrated squads, teams, and crews. Gender-integrated teams performed better than their all-male counterparts on 2 events. All-male squad. This is speed. All-male squads, regardless of infantry MOS, were faster than the gender-integrated squads in each tactical movement. The differences were more pronounced in infantry crew-served weapon specialties that carried the assault load plus the additional weight of crew-served weapons and ammunition. Lethality. All male 0311 riflemen infantry squads had better accuracy compared to gender-integrated squads. There was a notable difference between genders for every individual weapon system, i.e. M4, M27, and M203, within the 0311 squads, except for the probability of hit and near miss with the M4. Male provisional infantry, those with no formal 01XX school training, had higher hit percentages than the 0311 school-trained females. M4, 44% versus 28%. M27, 38% versus 25%. M16A4W/M203, 26% versus 15%. All male infantry crew-served weapons teams engaged targets quicker and registered more hits on target as compared to gender-integrated infantry crew-served weapons teams, with the exception of M2 accuracy. All male squads, teams, and crews, and gender-integrated squads, teams, and crews had a noticeable difference in their performance of the basic combat tasks of negotiating obstacles and evacuating casualties. For example, when negotiating the wall obstacle, male Marines threw their packs to the top of the wall, whereas female Marines required regular assistance in getting their packs to the top. During casualty evacuation assessments, there were noticeable differences in execution times between all male and gender-integrated groups, except in the case where teams conducted a casualty evacuation as a one Marine fireman's carry of another, in which case it was most often a male Marine who evacuated the casualty. And that is the stop point of the combat effectiveness section. And this tends to be the point of contention, is women serving actively in combat. Now, I probably should have prefaced this from the start, and people who know me will know what my motivations are. However, I think it's due diligence to state for the record, as this is going out to the world, that my concern here, and my reason for opposing women in combat roles, is not by dint of them being women. My issue is not that simply because somebody is a woman, they should not be in combat. It is not just you have a vagina and a uterus, you have a penis and testes, therefore one of you can serve, one of you cannot, based on those, the chromosomal and the, I'm not getting into all this crap that people are throwing around about gender and sex being constructed, blah, blah, blah. A biologically and physically female individual and a biologically and physically male individual, all right, are perceived with no difference to me, rather than, except for who I would, be sexually attracted to. The objective statistics are what I am concerned with here. Now, I've had a friend of mine say, well, only so and so many women were killed in firefights in Afghanistan and the Canadian forces. And I'm not going to dispute that. He has the facts to back that up. However, no firefight is exactly like another firefight. You cannot look at two combat actions and say these are the exact same and can be tested against one another and be shown to be objectively equal. You may have the equal number of lives lost, equal number of combatants, but these firefights will not be conducted in the same way. That is simply impossible. The reason that this type of testing that the USMC conducted is, in my mind, a form that carries more validity or more weight to it, is because you are subjecting all of the participants to the exact same test. And that is the important part. Because the exact same test here, all right, is meant to reflect as accurately as possible the conditions that these candidates would face in a combat zone, needing to exercise, lethal force through whatever weapon or weapon system that they may be assigned, and being able to evacuate injured members of their teams to prevent, absolute losses and loss of life. So when I look at this and I see that based on under combat effectiveness, that gender integrated squads score lower than their all male squad counterparts, the only takeaway I can bring from this is that, it is what it is. Gender integrated squads are less capable, statistically speaking, than their all male counterparts. This means that if we have gender integrated squads in active combat, that when you break it down to it, the likelihood that a gender integrated squad will suffer a combat loss when faced with the exact same situation as an all-male squad, okay, the likelihood of the gender integrated squad facing a combat loss, or the severity of their losses, will be much greater. If you are less lethal than the other individual, or your team is less lethal than the other team, if your team is less likely to be able to effectively evacuate your own injured than another team, these are massive marks against you. Because we are not sitting here asking, should women be allowed to serve in the military? We are asking if they should be allowed to serve in combat situations. I don't care who sits behind the desk to do to take my medical information test. I don't care who's a quartermaster. I don't care who's a cook. I don't care who's doing any job that does not put someone's life immediately on the line. All right, but when lives are on the line, it is imperative that the absolute best possible product, if you will, be put out to market. It is absolutely essential that the most capable be put out there to fight, and the least capable be shielded from that fighting. By this study, gender-integrated squads are less combat capable than their all-male counterparts. Because of this, I oppose women in active combat. I don't think it's a prudent decision to make. I think that there is enough evidence within this study overall. And remember, I've only read one segment of the summary. But really, I think this is the most damning section. I think this is the most important section. And I would love to hear what everyone else has to say, what your opinions are on it. But if you're going to come to me with an opinion, or you're going to come to me with a standpoint, I ask that you bring a citation to back it up. Because when lives are on the line, you will have to excuse me for relying more on objective statistics gathered by, let's say, industry experts. If we call the process of conducting combat operations an industry and the Marines an expert group, you'd better come with some pretty solid statistics. Otherwise, I'm going to have to say that the higher performance levels on 69% of tasks, as exemplified by all male squads versus the gender integrated squads, tallied up by the U.S. Marines, needs to be the writing precedent here. So anyway, without further ado, I open the comments section to hopefully some intelligent debate. Again, I have no problem with competing viewpoints. However, if you're just going to disagree and say, well, no, I think I know better, but I don't have anything to back it up, yeah, you've already lost. Anyway, there it is, folks. The stats are in. Have a good night.